We are done.
Yeah, that's right. The applause was so worthy right there. That was President Barack Obama, who was signing the Affordable Care Act into law, something that our nation needed desperately. And to be honest, we need far more. And of course, 13 years and a week later, well, there's a federal judge in Texas that today decided to hack away at the Affordable Care Act. US District Judge Rita O'Connor effectively ruled today that employers do not have to cover certain preventative healthcare services that were recommended, of course, by the US Preventive Services Task Force. And the thing is these preventative services were otherwise free. So here is the impact that we know so far. Among the preventative services affected by O'Connor's order are screenings for breast cancer, colorectal cancer, cervical cancer, and lung cancer, diabetes screenings, various screenings and interventions for pregnant people, statin use to prevent cardiovascular disease, vision screening for children, and more. Now, the ruling has implications for more than 150 million Americans on employer-sponsored health plans and could put millions on the hook for financially for certain screenings, immunizations, and other high-value services recommended by the US Preventive Services Task Force. And the thing is that even just looking at one microcosm of the illnesses that the Preventive Services Task Force had deemed were so important that we needed to do preventative service for that in terms of looking at cancer, well, we can see that the data from 2022 alone show that it's incredibly significant to have the preventative aspect there. Look at this chart here. And I'll show you from the graph how incredibly important it is to look at what the ratio there of cancer deaths versus new cancer cases. The fact is that people die because they don't have the knowledge, they don't figure out and find out that they are suffering from a disease, disability, some kind of illness that they could have been screened by, which is why the Preventative Task Force there was telling employers that this needs to be provided for free. And so cutting up the ACA appears to really be an ongoing mission of Judge O'Connor. Bear this in mind. He is a George W. Bush appointee. And if you recall back in 2018, well, he tried to invalidate the entire ACA. This man is hunting for it. He called it unconstitutional, but then the US Supreme Court came back and disagreed. So given O'Connor's ruling today, what will the nationwide impact look like and what comes next? Well, this per Forbes. The Biden administration is expected to appeal O'Connor's ruling, which means there's still the possibility of a higher court could overturn it. Insurance coverage contracts generally run through the end of the year, making any changes to insurance policies and what services they cover unlikely before 2024. That means if the case is reversed when it's appealed, there ultimately could be little impact on Americans' coverage, though it still remains to be seen how higher courts, including potentially the US Supreme Court, will respond in this case. Yeah, because we have a totally different court makeup than we did in 2018, as we now have a very conservative leaning court that of course loves to suckle at the teat of capitalism. So it's very scary how this could go down, but I can tell you that hopefully this is something that will encourage the vast majority of Americans to ensure that our representative body are more inclined to protect the people and to protect their rights. Because really, in the grand scheme of things, this ruling here, which again has a nationwide impact, could ultimately affect nearly half of the population of the United States who rely on the Affordable Care Act. AB, what are your thoughts?
I guess the first thing is, why do we have the task force if we're not gonna listen to their recommendations, right? And if we are invalidating these different procedures and task force that are put together, put in place in order to help us make rational decisions about the day-to-day lives of human beings, right? That we are here to protect and we are here to serve and we are here to make sure that they have the opportunity to live a healthy and nice and informed life. It's crazy to even be in this position where this is what we're arguing about when there are much greater legal issues that should be of concern to different congressional leaders and quite frankly to the court. I'm hoping to see an injunction on this because the last thing we need to see is more people losing their healthcare or the services that they need for healthcare, especially considering everything people have gone through with regards to COVID, right? What we are seeing with regards to mental health, right? What we are seeing in regards to the growth of new viruses and new things that are coming up outside of issues that we have been dealing with for centuries and centuries, right? Cancer. So it's terrible to even think that there are people in this world who can care less about people at the bare minimum having healthcare and adequate healthcare in order to flex their power. And I think that's exactly what we're looking at right now.
Yes, and I very much agree. And it's so wise of you to bring up the thought that there might be an injunction that will come down to essentially stop this order from taking effect nationwide. And the thing is that we are now really at the mercy of the Fifth Circuit and also the contracts we signed with our insurance providers that go through hopefully about the December time of 2023. But still, this is not something we want, nor is it something that the remainder of the United States wants to be held to. This is us being held hostage by this man's agenda to tear down the Affordable Care Act, when so many of us are already held hostage by our employers by virtue of the fact that our health insurance is tethered to our employment. And so given that so many people right now are in bad situations because enough isn't covered by health insurance providers to take this away too in terms of preventative care, it can be a death sentence to so many. And it's disgusting in terms of why this judge would make this ruling. I very much respect the law. I think that so many things about the law are beautiful, but at the same time, I know how it can be manipulated. So before we go to break, AB, any closing thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, I mean, we see where we're at, and I think this shows the importance of the judicial system, right? And the type of decisions that they get to make. And it also shows that how the Republican Party, for the most part, is utilizing the power of our judicial system to get the things that they want passed, and quite frankly, to make more public what their message is. And I think we need to be very aware of that and watch what's going on. And we need to be, at this point, need to be just as aggressive in the courts as those who feel like it's okay to take services and rights away from human beings.
Absolutely.